Want me to log my work time more accurately using a timer because you think I'm cheating you? Happy to oblige. This happened a while ago, and I've since moved jobs. Basically, every employee in my department was supposed to log their work hours and the project they were working on. When I first joined the company, I noticed that there was an inbuilt timer in the software which you can start/stop to get accurate logs, but I asked my bosses and other employees around, and everyone told me that no one uses it, and everyone fills in the log EOD or first thing in the morning next day. I was cool with that. So I started logging my time just like everyone else. Things were fine for quite a while, till I started putting in more and more hours to get work done. Fast forward to that fateful day, I get called by management. They tell me that my logging seems dishonest and deliberately misleading. I got told off saying they rely on these numbers to plan deadlines for the future, only on paper, not in practice, and that I'm cheating the company. They instructed me to only use the timer next day on, and nothing else. I should probably mention that the way I logged time till then was rounded down to 30-minute increments, just out of personal preference. For example, if a meeting lasted 45 minutes, I'd more often than not log 30 minutes. On top of that, I used to remove an hour off the top just as an eyeball figure for lunch and smoke breaks, because on average that's how long it took. And I should add that everyone, including my bosses, used to log time similarly. The company had trusted us to not be dishonest with it, and generally it worked out fine. Anyway, that day on, I started using the timer for everything. 10-minute briefing. Going in the log. 5-minute company call. Logged. Started eating in 15 minutes instead of 30, cut down smoke breaks from 2 to 1, etc. Basically, I made sure almost every minute between my in and out times would be accounted for. They also maintained a timestamp of all the times someone enters and exits the office, which they combined with the log to check. I made sure I was not being dishonest in any way, and just logging my actual work times. As you can guess, all the 11-hour overtime days piled up pretty quick, and at the end of the month, I got called by management again. My boss and his boss were both there. My boss was furious, demanding to know how my overtime hours had nearly doubled from previous months. I just said I don't know, I'm using the timer just like I was instructed to. I told them to go through my in and out times, my breaks, my deliverables, and when the timer was started and stopped to check if I was being dishonest or not. They sent me away after yelling at me a bit more, threatening termination if I was wrong. Next day, my boss told me to stop using the timer again, and apologized for calling me dishonest. I stopped using it, but I told him that now I knew more accurately how long my stuff takes, so I'll be logging accordingly even if I do so manually. TLDR, company assumes I am being dishonest with my time logging because of long working hours, ask me to use inbuilt timer, which actually ends up showing more hours than I was logging before. Edit. Wow, I've read almost every reply. Thanks to everyone who started a discussion about fair pay, ethics of working hours and how to manage projects. I'd just like to add a couple things, because I don't think I made them clear. I don't work there anymore first of all, and I'm salaried. Hourly pay doesn't happen in these parts at all, unless you're freelancing, sometimes not even then. The logging was more for getting leaves based on X hours you put in over your usual time. Also, I found out later why they were this mad at me was because they knew after I'd tell people, everyone's leaves would go up, and us being understaffed at the time it wouldn't have been great for the company.
Now to the comments. A lot of higher-ups would be astonished how much work is done for free. I am playing with the idea of pulling something like that with my boss because she is not paying overtime.
Agreed. I'm so ducking irritated about the fact that my newish workplace doesn't pay overtime. Cheap bastards.
Well then just go home after you've done your time. Why work for free? A working contract is money for time. You can't just remove one side of the equation and expect employees to work literally for free. That doesn't apply if it's a temporary thing in a small company or if you have skin in the game by being related or married to the owners, of course, but in a big company where they could afford to pay people fairly and have redundancies in place to compensate for spikes in working hours, duck donating money to them. I think I would have told them that, no, I've decided I like using the timer so I'll continue using it. I actually wrote myself a timer like this at an old job, without all the detailed timestamp logging, because I'm terrible at estimating and remembering what I've been doing.
OP replied. I just wanted to make it extremely clear that at every step, I was doing exactly what they asked me and that they brought this on themselves. I did however tell a couple of other guys I worked with to try the timer and see what they get. Almost all of them had an hour more of company-related work than they thought.
I remember CGP Grey talking about auditing his time, and the conclusion is that the human brain is fantastically terrible at estimating time and should never be trusted. What kills me about this is the dragging you into the office for the second time to ream you out for something wherein they could have checked if your logs matched up ahead of time. Instead, they chose the lazy management technique.
OP replied. I think it was because my boss's boss wasn't told I was using the timer till I came to the room, and my boss neglected to inform him. I guess he probably thought I was entering arbitrary values to get as close to my total time as possible. The auto-generated report which goes out doesn't mention if you used the timer or input the values manually, just the times and items. For that you have to go into the admin or watcher panel of the time log software.
Were I your boss's boss, I would have had words with your direct boss after that for being put in that situation. I'm sad there was no "yeah I know." Appears you were right, my hours weren't accurate, I was being underpaid regardless. Nice story. I love malicious compliance.
I have a better estimate now, I think I'll be using it is about the same.
It's better too, Imo. It's a clean and warranted slap in the face. Now the boss has to explain to his boss why people are making more money. I've made it a point at my job to leave at exactly my appointed time unless asked to stay and help, because they have to log that they asked me to stay and therefore pay for my time. They don't pay me enough and I don't enjoy the job enough to do work for free.
One of my employees is salaried and my raise request for him was denied twice by my superiors. This was his and my play to get them moving. I instructed him to work exactly 40 hours every week and no more. When I was questioned about the decrease in production, I explained that he worked hundreds of hours of overtime in good faith over the past year, and the company didn't satisfy their end of the implicit arrangement, so I can't in good conscience ask him to work more than the 40 hours he's being paid for. He got the raise.
You're a good boss, mate. I had a boss like this once. Didn't believe how many hours we were working and didn't believe us how much time we said that tasks took, so I set up a system on my computer that took me about 3 seconds to change the logging of tasks I was working on. After a few weeks, he got down to the minute details of what I was working on. I taught the rest of the team this method as well, although they weren't as diligent as me. After a few weeks, we had proof that the entire team was working 50 hours a week regularly. I had other people notice my system and asked why I was doing it. I said, "Boss asked to log our hours to see where our time is going." They usually just rolled their eyes because this guy had a reputation already.
Programmer? I ask because you seem to have used $boss to denote your superior variable.
Not a programmer, but I have been in IT and have worked closely with programmers my entire career. Good for you. My wife is in a similar place at her job, but jokes on them, since when it comes to efficiency, they lose a meaningful amount of time a day just entering the information into the time management app, and that piles up pretty quick.